good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon what time you consume your media. Welcome to Run It Back, episode number 62. I am your host, Menelik Fernandez. Welcome. It's always a pleasure to have people join us. The premise of Run It Back remains the same. We take teams that have played previously and we run it back, so to speak, where we talk about what worked, what didn't work, preparation, scouting, matchups, all the fun things, the intricacies, the details that go into game planning. And, we look at it from the hindsight perspective, which is often 2020. And since episode 6, I believe it is, we've been very fortunate to have a coach from the game in question join us. Today is no different. We've got we're doing a game. It's from January 4th, 2020. It's Shawnee State versus Thomas More. And we've got Miss Abby Owings joining us, who was an assistant coach with Shawnee State at the time, currently at Eastern Kentucky. Abby, if you give me a chance, I'll do my best to try and give you a warm welcome here. Miss Owings was an assistant coach, is an assistant coach and recruiting coordinator at Eastern Kentucky currently. She was an assistant coach at Bellarmine for one season previously. She was an assistant coach at Shawnee State prior to that, and was a GA at Moorhead State for one season prior to that. She also had a phenomenal playing career. That's a bit of an understatement, to be honest. She played at Thomas More, which is kind of the intrigue for this game. It's pretty nice to go at your alma mater, but when she played there, she went to 3 national championships and won 2 of them. She finished her career there as the school's leading scorer. She's now currently second. She was in NCAA all-tournament team and first team all-conference as both a freshman and a sophomore, and was the D3Hoops.com All-American in her sophomore year. So, Abby, welcome. I'm very pleased to have you on Run It Back, and this is awesome to have somebody of your caliber join us.
Man, thank you for having me. You definitely made me sound a lot better than I actually am, I think. But I appreciate the introduction. I'm looking forward to doing this with you guys. Thank you.
Hey, my pleasure. It's always funny to me how incredible players are always so humble. Oh, you made me sound better than I am. Accolade, 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 accolade. Like, okay. So let take us back. Give us the background of why this game was important to you. Obviously, it's your alma mater, but the background of where you are in the season, how you're approaching this scout, how many games you're watching, what goes into the scout, all that fun, detailed stuff.
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, that was my alma mater. So that was actually my first time going back into that building and not being a fan, not being a player. So
Wow.
instead of sitting on the bench or being in the stands, I was on the opposing bench. So it was a little different. A little history behind Thomas More real quick. Like that is in Northern Kentucky, that is basketball. Like so many people come to watch our games.
Right.
You kind of have like the high school arena feel. So 400 or 500 people fill up quickly, and it just kind of feels like people are on top of you. So I knew going in there as the opposing team that it was going to be a hard place to win. We were actually able to end I believe it was like a 3 or 4 year run where they did not lose a conference game. So
Oh,
uh,
wow.
yeah, at home. So that was pretty cool to go in there and do that. It was just different because I was on a different team and everybody just expected me to be all Thomas More all the time. But I'm a competitor, so I'm gonna go in there and try to win.
Did you, I'm sorry to interrupt. Did you expect some chatter and did you receive some chatter from some of the fans?
Oh, for sure, for
There
sure.
you go. I love it.
It's funny. A couple of the girls that played on Thomas More at that time were also my teammates. So that's how close in age it was. So I got a lot of text messages, a lot of riffraff. So, but it was
Love
good.
it.
I love it. Those are moments that you live for. So, yeah, really really enjoyed it. But getting to your scouting questions there. That was our first game after Christmas break. I think our last one was on like December 28th or something like that
Yeah, I
against,
think so too. Yep.
yeah, against a Wilberforce team who I think we did some damage on. So I wasn't, to be honest with you, I wasn't really worried about the Wilberforce game. Like my mind had been on Thomas More pretty much the whole entire year because I knew like this was the game, right? Um,
Hmm.
so I would say I spent scouting wise, I probably spent about 2 or 3 weeks on it, just making sure that I had everything ready to go. Um,
Right.
at that level, at the NAI level, for those of you who are unfamiliar, like you're kind of short on staff. So you kind of have your hand in every scout in some way, shape, or form, right? So that one, I would say I kind of just took it all over because I knew the defense, I knew the offense, I knew what he was going to run when they were losing. I knew that he was going to run when they just needed a basket. So I kind of had that played out in my mind, what that was going to look like. Um, but I spent a lot of time breaking down film, seeing if there was anything different that he's done from the time that I played till now. And really not much has changed other than his play calls.
Interesting.
He would go from and when I played doing thumbs up one and it went to chin one, but it was the same thing. So
Right.
those are just a couple of things that I just had to scout. But all the same action, all the same stuff that I did back when I was in school. And he's stubborn, so he's not going to deviate much. And I knew that going in, but again, he's had a system that has been to, 4 Final Fours, and his winning percentage is absolutely ridiculous. So you're not going to deviate just because someone else, is on the other bench that maybe
Right.
knows plays,
Right.
right? Um,
Still have to stop us at the end of the day.
bingo.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about that process a little bit. Sorry to just jump in, but you mentioned you started it a few weeks early. You mentioned it was a game that was a focal point for you. How many games out are you watching to get those calls? What's going into your actual scout that may be different than a typical scout just because you played there and you know more about it? Give
Sure.
us some of the intricacies of the details that might be a little bit different and might be similar to what your normal process would be.
Well, I went back and watched every single game they had to that point.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
yeah. So I wanted to make sure that we did not lose that game. Um, Now that's not normal. Usually I'm watching the last 3 to 5, depending on how good the team is, what I think we need to really prepare for.
Right.
Um, but I went back and watched every single one of them, and just to see if they were changing up things, if what I thought maybe he would do to us differently than maybe he had done to a couple other teams that they had played, right? So um, it's interesting. I tried not to overwhelm the girls with how much knowledge I had of everything, but in the same breath, it's like I don't want to lose. Like it's my scout, we're not going to lose. Making sure that all the girls are on the same page with that part of it. But film wise, we watched. So Coach Nico was really good. He wanted to just watch like every day leading up to the game, watch like a quarter of a random game, right? So you can just kind of see their flow, how they like to get up and down, just kind of different defensive schemes that they have. And then as it got closer to the game day, that's where I kind of threw in more personnel clips, you know, breaking down their offense a little bit more. And again, it was hard for me because I had to pick and choose which things I wanted to show them and which ones I didn't feel like,
Right.
were so
Right.
important. So,
Like when it's something that I've experienced this, you tend to become quite a bit more detailed. Obviously, you're like, let me just show 10 clips on instead of five type deal. So there's a question in the chat. I think this is a really good question actually. Obviously, this game is a point of emphasis for you. Did you download this emphasis of the game to your athletes? Did you let them know the importance? Did you kind of convey it to them? And if so, how?
So I actually didn't. However, all of our players knew that I went to Thomas More.
Right.
So like the day before the game, we were watching film, and afterwards, Coach Nickle always gives his 2 cents. I like to say on how we need to prepare. What we need to be ready for. And he made sure to throw in there, hey, we're not going to go up there and embarrass her in front of all these people. So I really respected that from him.
Right.
didn't ask him to do that at all, and I didn't want the girls to feel like that pressure that they had to win, like had to, play differently because of my situation.
Right.
So no, I actually didn't say a word. That was everybody else, but it was cool after the game when we won. All the girls were like hugging me and stuff. So you get that
Yeah,
love, I
for sure.
guess. So
Let's talk a bit about your film. You mentioned typically you're going 3 to 5 out. You said for this you're doing a little bit more. What does the conveyance on that staff look like? I mean, if you've got your hands in every scout, as you said,
mhm.
once you've come together and sort of decided what you're going to do, how do you convey that to the rest of the coaching staff? And then what gets conveyed to the players? And is it the same thing or does it get condensed? And what are the focal points? All of that.
Yeah, so mainly like that year I was in charge of getting all of the other team's offense, right? So that was like my job. Again, going back, this situation was different because I had so much familiarity with the program, right? So, and then our other assistant, he would get the defense. And then our other assistant, she would get personnel. And then we
Okay.
would all kind of sit down and collaborate together. Um, and then our head coach, we'd show him and stuff like that. And he's like, yeah, we got to take that out. Why don't we have number 14 in here? She's played X amount of games, like why,
Right.
like he would kind of be the one that would make it more organized, I would say. We would just sort of present the information. Now what I did like that he did was, he gave each of us a key to win. So each of us had to put a key to win in each game, which I thought was really cool. And sometimes we all had a similar thing.
Right.
You just try to think of something different that would really help us win that game. So hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does absolutely. How long would that video be that gets conveyed to the players? And do you do something that's like a paper report in addition to the film?
Yeah. We like to show our girls, again, we had been watching, quarters all the way up until that game. So they are kind of familiar with the flow. So that night before the game, we showed them 10 minutes. It was like 5 minutes of personnel, couple minutes of offense, and then a couple minutes of their 2-2-1 defense.
Right.
I'm sorry, yeah, their 2-2-1 defense. And so that kind of, that was about as much as we showed them as far as chopping it up, and making it condensed. And we do scan reports. So
Nice.
um, the thing that I like that Coach Nichol does, and not everywhere does this, but he actually has us put the plays in the scout of all of their sets. I know, like at the Division 1 level, like where I was at last year at Bellarmine and at Morehead State, and even here, we don't give the girls the plays. We just walk through it.
I'm finding from doing this show that it's becoming a dying art. It's not something that's included in a lot of scouts because a lot of coaches, and this is kind of one of my next questions to follow, but a lot of coaches are really like, we do what we do and we're going to just try and do that well, as opposed to we're going to adjust for every opponent. So it doesn't really matter what they run. We guard a stagger this way, we guard a cross screen this way, we guard a zip cut that way type deal. So that being said, a lot of the time they're like, we don't care what they're running. They should know how to guard the actions that get put together type deal.
so I have an interesting theory on that, and people
I
might get
saw the smile the whole time. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to this.
people might get mad that I say this, but honestly, I think that's sort of a lazy approach, to be honest. Because sure, I get it. Yeah, you're going to guard a stagger a certain way. Okay, but what if this certain player does a certain thing off of it, or what are their counters to a stagger? Do they stagger through, or do they loop through the first one and then the second one is actually a stagger, right?
Right, right.
So that I think if you're gonna say, oh, we're gonna do what we do best, like or we hey, guys, we're never deviating. I think that just means you didn't take the time to figure out whether you actually do need to guard it a different way.
Yeah, well, like you borderline don't even have to do a scout at that point. If you're just never going to make an adjustment,
Mhm.
then why even scout? Like, who cares what they do ultimately at the end of the day, right? Like,
No doubt.
it, I was asked to write an article. Sorry, this is a complete tangent
You're good.
on preparation. And having done this show for over a year now, I think I kind of took on the context of supporting more of that point of view when my original point of view was like, give them everything and like the best players are going to get it. And I don't know, I sit on the fence now as to which theory is better. I still have part of me that leans towards like prepare, 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 prepare. And the people that don't get it, that's on them. And then I hear the value of the discussion of like, we're going to do what we do and we're going to try and do it well and all that. But I sit on the fence. I got a question in the chat from Chris. Sorry. It goes back to the film sessions. Are they separate from practice or do they run in conjunction with practice?
Great question. We did it both ways. Towards the end of the week, since we're cutting down practice time a little bit to save their legs, I would say it was just added on at the end.
Right.
But we did have with Coach Nickel, we did have individual workouts during the week. So that week, instead of like watching, or I'm sorry, doing an individual, we would bring the girls all in at the same time and watch a quarter. So it really just depended on the scout, the week, what it looked like. If some girls had class, we just had to figure it out. But typically it was in conjunction with practice, like at the end of it or something like that. So
when you would have your girls watch a quarter at a time, would you stop it and give them feedback about things that you saw? Or would you just let them watch the whole thing and then question them about it?
both.
Well,
Both. Yep. I think sometimes like you've got to let them just watch for themselves and try to figure it out, but at the same time they're not coaches, so you have to show them particular things that they need to look for. Like Thomas More, for example, they were, let's see, second in the country in field goals made at the time. So
right.
just showing them, hey guys, as soon as they cross half court, the ball's going up. Like they're shooting a ton of threes or shooting a ton of shots. So you just gotta, reiterate some of those things to them, making sure they're seeing how fast it's coming out of their hands. So yeah.
What about like you mentioned that you include the sets. What about the walkthrough? Are you walking through your stuff in order to attack certain things that you've seen? Or are you walking through their stuff in order to guard it better, so to speak?
That's awesome that you said that. I never thought about it like that. I guess we did walk through their stuff, try to figure out how to guard it. I guess with Coach Nickel, he would want to get their ball screen coverage. He would want to get their different zone defenses, stuff like that, so that we could prepare that way. If that's kind of
Right.
saying on the first part of it. But yeah, I think we did it both ways. More so, we would just walk through their sets and try to figure out how we're going to guard it.
In terms of like ball screen coverages, did you guys have I've used the analogy a lot of the time, jack of all trades, master of none versus highly specialized. What sort of philosophy did you guys have? Did you employ multiple coverages? Because I think I saw 2 or 3 in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And then that being said, when you're playing a team, as you mentioned, you're walking through their coverages. Because you employ various coverages, do you feel that you can attack various coverages better because of that?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. The thing with Coach Nickel, and it drove me crazy sometimes, and that he's probably gonna watch this, and that's okay. We don't have to edit it. I
The
mean,
coach.
we changed our ball screen coverages all the time, like all the time, and to the point where, to be honest with you, as an assistant, I didn't feel like our girls were good at just one of them. Like I just felt like we needed to spend time on, hey, if we're gonna ice wing ball screens, we need to spend a lot of time on that.
Right,
I never felt like we were just great at one of them, and that's
right.
what bothered me as an assistant. But we would do anything. I mean, we'd ice wing ball screens. We would call it jamming under. Post just jams his post, and the
Yep,
guard goes
yep.
under. We'd hard hedge. We would switch. I mean, we did everything. So in preparation for a team that, you know, Thomas More, they switched a lot of stuff. So really we could work on us and them at the same time, doing
Okay,
like a pick and roll mix type drill, which is what we called it.
right.
Basically just have, set up on one side, post, guard, offense, defense. They do a ball screen. You work on the coverage, work on attacking it. Okay, they're done. Other side goes, right? So you kind of kill two birds with one stone there. So
Like it,
mhm.
like it. let's talk about like matchups, depth charts, starters, amount of players, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Would all of your players get the same scout, or would like your first 8 or first 9 get more? How deep would you guys go in your lineup? And would they have their matchups early, or would they be expected to know everyone?
Yeah, all of our girls got the same scout. We felt like it was really important for all of them to have it in the event that so and so gets hurt or whatever. They need to be ready to go, right?
Right.
That's I felt like that was very important for all of them to understand the game plan. Um, we did. What was your last question again? About was it about matchups or
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I asked 3 in there. I'm sorry. The rest was how deep in the lineup would you go? And was everyone expected to know everyone type deal, or were they only really sort of specializing on, hey, you're probably going to guard Abby for a large percentage of the game, know a little bit more about Abby?
Sure, sure, yeah. We put their top 9 on there. And that 9 it was a question that ninth one was always a question mark.
Right, right,
So um we didn't necessarily like quiz them like our girls as far as okay, uh what is the seventh man on the bench? Like what does she do, right? But if she's a shooter, we just have to be cautious of that and aware, right?
right,
Um but I think like what we really really harped on was who are their guys who when it comes down to at the end of the game who has the ball in their hands, and what their strengths are and how we can really take those away, and every single girl from our top person to our bottom person understood that.
right,
Now I can't sit here and tell you that we did the best job of helping our girls understand the bottom half of the bench or whatever it was, but I think the main thing in this particular scenario, you got to keep the main thing. And we don't
right.
want to make them, you, have too much information going on up there. So just like Thomas More had 3 kids that we really just want to make sure that we took care of. So that was kind of our point of emphasis.
Love it. So going from the general to the specific, so to speak, what were your points of emphasis and for whom in this game? Who were the killers, and what were the things like, oh, we want to play fast or we want to limit? What were the things that you really zeroed in on?
Sure. They had, so this year, 2 of their best players were freshmen, Zoe Barth and Courtney Hurst. And then the other one, I would say that their starting five's pretty solid, but the other ones we kind of had circled were Kayla Sander and Emily Schultz.
Right,
So you look at 4 of their 5 starters there, that you know for me, really, we had to take care of Courtney Hurst. She was, let's see, I got a stat right here. At the time, she was shooting 41.5% from 3. And the couple of games before that, she broke or tied the record for most 3-pointers made in a game with at 9 threes.
love it.
Yeah. So um, she was somebody that we made sure we took care of, and we certainly did. She had 0 points when she played us. She went, let's see, 0 for 3 from 3, played 29 minutes. So um, that was we kind of I feel like we did our job there. And I'm sorry, my brain goes a mile a minute. What was the other thing you asked me about?
Uh, we
Easy.
were sorry, I was just reading Max's question and it
That's okay.
distracted me as
That's
well.
okay.
We were talking about the specifics for the like the individual focuses
Sure.
of the particular players. So going from general to specific, like which players were the killers, which players did you have to do extra for, and then which things were like the keys to the game that you had identified before.
Perfect. Well, I just hit on Courtney Hurst there. That was the kid that we were kind of most worried about with her shooting the ball the way that she does. Um,
Right,
Zoe Barth, she just kind of like a Swiss Army knife. She can do a little bit of everything.
right,
And so she kind of was a matchup problem for us. But the good thing about her was that she was a freshman. So with freshmen, they get those freshman mistakes. So we
yeah,
were just kind of praying to the basketball gods that that day wasn't her day, right?
The best part about freshmen is they become sophomores.
Yeah. Kayla Sander, again, just a freaking 3-point shooter, man. Like I played with her too. So going into that game, I was very particular of, hey, like she is going to fire the ball up, like no open
Right.
looks, right? And then Emily Schultz, their post player, um, she was coming off of a knee injury. So I knew that going into this game, she was a little bit slower than she had been in the past.
Right.
So that leads into our keys, I guess, for the game was just run, 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 run. We
So pace of play was important.
Yes, we like transition offense was like just a major, major key to win to that game. And for the most part, we did a really good job. I went back and watched the game again a couple of days ago, and I'm like, oh my God, like we did a really good job at doing that one thing there. And mainly because they didn't have great defensive transition schemes either. I don't know really what their philosophy is. He sort of changed it actually from when I played to then, but we were able to get out on them and run. The other thing was that we knew they were weak in the post, so
Right.
we really just went at them. Now,
Kind
our
of ties into my first clip of the game. We'll get to that when we get into the film. Sorry.
no, it's funny. I remember it was towards the end of the game. It was close, right? And Coach Nickel kept running plays to get it inside, or he kept telling our guards, get it inside, get it inside. And our posts were just being so freaking soft. And I remember in the media timeout, I'm like, Coach, if that's what we're going to do, then our post can't be that freaking soft, because we kept going away from the basket. We kept just throwing up stuff that just didn't make any sense. And really all it was to do a simple drop step and put the ball in the hole,
Right.
and so he went in there and just lit them up. But I just remember that one part about that game. And
Love it.
then the other one would be our pick and roll coverage, because they run a Euro ball screen offense. And they also do like a middle ball screen roll and rise. So
Right.
those are the two things that we just had to take care of. And I thought we did a decent job. That middle roll and rise screwed us up at the end of the game. We didn't know. We mixed up 1,000 things, and then again, it goes back to our kids weren't good at just one thing, so,
Right. Right.
it hurt us right there. So
Right. I'm going to jump to Max's question there that he's put in the chat. I think you touched on this a little bit when you were talking about walkthroughs, but he says, what about your offense versus their defense? How much do you work on that against pick and roll coverages?
um, and now that I'm talking about it more, we actually did um, a lot of work on that. We didn't tell the girls always like, hey, this is what they do. Coach kind of just presented it like, okay, I want you guys set up in a 1-2-2 right now.
Right.
Just see what it looked. We didn't tell them that though. But yeah, now that I think about it, we did go through a lot of that stuff, and that's important. Because you see these different defensive schemes, different coverages. Maybe not different coverages for us, like I said, because we did everything. But I think it's good for our girls to understand like what's going to come at them. Um, you know, our offense versus their defense type deal. So I hope that kind of answers the question there.
So my follow-up question to that would be, the day that you get your own team,
Mhm.
do you think it would be better, or would you not care to let them know this is what the other team is doing versus just kind of walking through it? Like what are your thoughts on informing them, giving them the whole to the part to the whole model, as opposed to just part to whole type deal?
Man, I struggle with that all the time because I am I am very detailed, and I want everybody to know everything. But as I've gotten better at doing scouting and presenting information and just going through it, I realize that our kids, and it may be different with males and females, but especially for us, they can only take so much, so I'm when I get to that point, and even now, doing my own scouts and stuff like that, it's going to be very simplified of just like, here, we're going to do it in parts, to answer your question. We're not going to overwhelm them because I mean, listen, they gotta go to class, they gotta go to practice, and I'm saying this sarcastically. They act like they have all these things going on, and they do. But I try not to overwhelm them and just try to get them to know the main things, I guess. So,
The reason that I'm laughing though is that your comment earlier about like, hey, that's maybe a bit of a cop out.
mhm,
I've really heard the entire spectrum on this particular type of question in
okay,
terms of how much information to give them and what's to be expected. And
sure,
there's competing theories for sure. You know, less is more, teach to the top three maybe, and then everybody else should like try and adapt because you're teaching to them. Or you know, like I had Ryan Pannone on a couple weeks ago, and Ryan Pannone, Erie Bayhawks head coach, is like, no, like don't condense things. Give them a 10-page report. Let's see what they can do. You don't know until you try. He's like, a lot of these guys know 3,000 songs verbatim. They can manage to get a 10-page report on some stuff. And it's like, they all seem right. And I'm so overwhelmed. I don't really know. I don't really know what is the right philosophy to take. Just like how you said, I struggle with it. Let's jump into some in-game stuff here just before we get to some film. What are you tracking on the bench? Are you making the subs, or is your head coach making the subs? And what's sort of important to you statistically from like a box score?
um, my job that year was to track. I did a couple things. Making sure that our defensive transition was correct. We used a philosophy called hawk and safety,
Okay.
and basically it's you're sending forward to the glass essentially in one person's back, and then
Right.
that hawk person is going to the nail, and their job is, whenever there's a rebound, they're tracking where that ball is, try to stop the ball and slow it down in defensive transition. So my job was making sure that the hawk and safeties were in the right spots. In a timeout, the thing that I always look at is rebounds. I always look at rebounds, and I always look at turnovers. Because sometimes I feel like we just throw the ball away, and then actually we only have 2 turnovers. So like I'm ripping people's butts for no reason. But I'm very hard. I guess like hard when it comes to that. Like I want to take care of the basketball, no unforced turnovers type deal.
Right.
Um, as far as the subbing goes, Coach Nickel kind of gave me that responsibility as well. I mean, our girls, it's very common. You pull your shirt like you need one, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that in that game specifically, I wanted to make sure we had a strong five in there all the time. I didn't really want to go small because I knew that was an area we can get them at.
Right.
And I thought we did a really good job with that. But my in-game stuff, I'm very like I will hold this the whole game, but I might not ever open it. Like I'm just very like I'm watching the game from the time it starts to the time it's over.
Right.
But I just I have a lot of energy over there, so I people kind of might think that I'm like a hype man or something like that, and I am. But I would rather coach the girls in the game than look at all this bull crap. Oh, so and so's got they're 1 for 4 from three, or like, oh hey, like that doesn't matter because you could still lose a game, like even knowing all of the analytics of things during the game. In my point, I'm
Right.
more like focused on what's going on out there. So.
So in hindsight, do you think there was anything that you could add or subtract to your scout that would have helped you more in the process of winning this game? They say hindsight is 2020. Like if you were to like I typically ask now, do you prepare like a post-game evaluation?
Mhm.
So do you do that? But if not, like if you were evaluating your scout and having recently rewatched this game, is there anything that you're like, oh, kind of missed that, or this was really good that this really helped us here and here type deal?
I don't actually do post evaluations, even though that's a great idea. Maybe something I look at for sure. But I remember I felt like I didn't do a good job preparing them for that middle ball screen roll and rise. And
Right.
for the life of me, it's so like it's so dumb of me now. I think about it. I'm like, what does coach run when things are getting tough, he runs a middle ball screen roll and rise. And that's exactly what they did to us at the end, and we couldn't guard it. And so I wish I would have spent more time on that part of it in the scout during that week leading up to practice, because I really felt like that hurt us. And we did a better job second time we played them, but I just remember after that first game, that was bad on my part. I should have spent more time on that. And then what I did feel like we did a really good job of was going inside with our
Right.
post. I
I
felt
would
like
agree after watching the game as well.
Sure. Yeah. Felt like our girls really understood that part of it. I got on our guards a few times because I felt like, they missed our post a lot, and I felt like they could have sent it in more than they did. But it's just I was very pleased with how they handled the game plan. But if there's one thing I look back on, it's definitely that middle ball screen roll and rise I could have done better at. So
For sure.
yeah.
That post-game report, I've given credit to him before, but a former guest on the show, Enrico Kufor, sent me one of his one time, and I was like, "This is amazing. Why am I not doing this?"
Hmm.
It actually, to me, is really valuable, and it's definitely something that I'll utilize going forward. So
I'd love
consider
to
it
do
for
that.
sure. I can actually send you what he sent me if you like afterwards. It's pretty interesting because it's succinct. It's like, maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs, and you're just like, we did this, it was good because of this, whatever number wise, and then we didn't do this, they killed us here, consider tactic A, B, C, or whatever type deal. If anybody has questions, please feel free to jump in. If not, I'm going to jump into a little bit of film with Coach Owings here. And I think we're good. So let me share and get started here. Are you good with the size of that? You
I
can
am
see
good
that
with
okay?
that. Yep, I'm good. Yep.
Okay, and I will, as I said, I'll play everything 3 times. So once just to sort of walk through everything. Second time I'll fumble with a description for listeners instead of viewers.
Mhm.
And then third time, take it away. Let me know. Basically, for anybody who's listening, it's first play of the game. It's a top ball screen, basically, more than anything. We go towards the double side, roll in a seal. They got the switch, I think, that they wanted. Throw it in. She doesn't really drop step. She kind of steps laterally and misses a left-handed layup. Without being married to the result, what were you guys trying to establish? What were you looking for? Were there options in the set? All that fun stuff. Let me know.
Sure. So again, coach first play, he wanted to get that switch with number 31 Schultz and Courtney Hurst, I think there as guarding Anaya. Now Bailey did what we call a double back. She went off the screen and then brought it back to the other side.
Right.
And so that was actually a really good look on her part. What we actually, I think, intended to do here was go dribble handoff with that girl on the wing over there. Yes, her. And then she kind of wrap it around. Now, she's a really good driver. So we were trying to get her going to the rim, but Bailey is a great point guard, recognized the switch early, and then got it into AP. AP's got to do a better job of leg whipping around Courtney there and putting it in for a left-handed layup. But ultimately, I think we got what we wanted in that possession.
I agree. What about the low tag from them? They're doubling from their low person on the double side.
Sure. Yeah.
Would you guys be noticing, sort of correcting for any strategy adjustments later on? Would you just not care when you're posting on that switch and have her attack still?
Yeah, that's definitely something. See, now the girl in the corner over here, the reason I believe she is tagging is because this girl in the corner is actually not a great shooter. So they left her for a second. But that's definitely something Coach Nickel would address with our players. For some reason, I want to say that this was actually supposed to be a single side over there. But we don't ever run it that way. But again, Bailey being a really good point guard noticed where like the defense wasn't, I guess, and brought it back to the other side. But to bring that up, that was a good point, man. Like I didn't catch that. So yeah.
No problem. This was just a set that I liked. This was early in the first quarter still. It's kind of a hard set to describe. I'll play it through. It's almost like a blocker mover type action or a wheel cut with your two going, and then a top ball screen followed afterwards. So I'll run it back and I'll go through it. We sort of ghost out, and like I said, we've got the wheel cut happening. So one going under the double screen and one going over, turns into a stagger on that side. The ball's reversed, and then the low woman on the stagger pops up for top ball screen. And now we're basically in a short corner top ball screen. So we attack and we get a switch again, and we just have a beautiful drop off for a left-handed layup. Talk to me about options. Talk to me about how well or unwell I described it, what you noticed, all that stuff.
Sure. So we actually ran a lot of sets like this. We started a lot of our sets like
Sorry,
that.
my daughter's playing Mario Kart in the background. I apologize for the noise.
We started a lot of sets like this actually, where our top guard would kind of goes through. She could either go strong side or opposite, just depending on what we were running. But this is a quick hitter. So again, Brandy Snow's coming off that double stagger. We get another double stagger over there. I think Bethany Mackin is wide open over there in the corner. So that would have been a great look. However, the young lady with the ball at the top of the key is probably one of the best drivers in the country. Can you talk about somebody that can just get to the rim? That's her. And then AP, what I don't think she realizes is she could have just ducked in right there and could have had a clean post up as well. Going back, if she would just hold her spot right there. But knowing AP, she wanted to get Brandy open. And so we just ran the play all the way through. What I love about this play right here is you get a triple gap on this side. Bailey's got to get her butt down the corner a little bit deeper. But that opens up a big driving lane for Brandy Snow to get to the hole. And as you mentioned, we got the switch we wanted right there. And the defense shifts to the help. Now, what's supposed to happen here? We have a dribble drive principle that we like to input here. So Bethany Mackin, this young lady on the wing, left wing here, anytime somebody drives, she was actually supposed to lift and kind of be that pitch guy for Brandy, and she did not do that. But so you talk about options here. Yes, right here. Yep, her. Yeah, you talk
How
about
high would you have her lift? Are we right in behind type deal, or are we only free throw line extended?
Directly behind her. Yep, directly behind. That's a dribble drive concept that we kind of implemented. But again, options here. Brandy going to the rim, get a triple gap over there with Bailey, and then you've got Bethany's supposed to be a pitch guy, and she's not. So a bunch of different things here. Brandy makes a really good pass there.
That's a great pass for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
And we kind
so I'm sorry, I forget the name, but you're short corner player.
Sure.
In an ideal world, continues to space or has this burn cut to the rim? I didn't hear what you said in there. Sorry.
She actually, I don't know why she's going in there. She's supposed to be out wide a little bit so that we can get that roll pretty clean. However, what I think she helped us with there is that Kayla Sander kind of had to drop down and take away Sydney's low, short corner option there, which I think helped because that opened up Bethany's shot there. But typically Sydney's supposed to be out a little bit wider, more towards the 3-point line.
Right.
So
well, this is, if she ends up seeing this is a fantastic pass. This is against three people and through a pocket. Love it. This is one that I ask every week, and I don't know, it's a bit of a staple on the show, but transition threes, yay or nay? And without being married to the result, obviously she hits that. If yes, are there things that have to be done in order to earn coaches' trust to be able to shoot them? What are those things? Like what's the decision that goes into the yes or no for that process?
I am all for it if you can make it. I'm all for it.
You were a guard.
Absolutely. It's interesting. This action that's happening right here, just like a little pitch behind. We worked on that all the time. So this was actually cool that they, where they did some of the things we taught. Right. It's really cool, man. Like when they do things that we teach.
Yeah.
So this is awesome that this happened. I'm all for it if you can make the shot. Coach Nickel didn't really have. I know some people use red light, green light, yellow light, those type of things. we didn't necessarily have that system, but I think he more so was like, okay, I want you and you to shoot it. You'd have no business out there, blah, 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 those type of things. I think it was just communicated.
And it would change, I would assume, throughout the year, right? Like, hey, you're at 18% in transition threes. We should probably stop having you shoot those, as opposed to, hey, you're shooting that pretty well. Keep doing it.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep, that's right.
Hey, this is a total aside just from what you said in terms of pretty cool when players do things that you've worked on. My very first year coaching ever, I actually came from the business world, the sales world. And within like a few weeks in one of our games, we had a guy use a drop step, pivot back, up and under type move that I had taught him in the post. And he got an N1, he pointed at the bench and he's like, that's all because of you. And I'm like, that's it. I'm a coach. I'm hooked. I love this.
Yeah, that stuff's so cool.
It
That's
is
so
for
cool.
sure.
Mhm.
It's funny you mentioned all the role replace they did to you because I zeroed in on one of your sets where you guys kind of role replaced. I'll play it through and then I'll talk about it afterwards. But here's your top pick and roll, and here's your role replace action. Sort of forms a triangle with the top, and you obviously got that switch that you wanted, threw it in, and she makes this one to her left.
Sure.
Just before I get into having you answer that, somebody put something in the chat. Chris is just stepping out. Sorry. Yeah, so talk to me about the role replace action for you guys. And was it a staple or did you put it in because you felt like they were doing it to you too much?
Absolutely. We never did roll and replace ever. So this is definitely something to kind of just throw it back at them, see how they would do with it.
Love it.
But it's actually, and this wasn't Coach Nickel, that was all Coach Nickel. He's like, well, they're just going to switch everything. So let's just get our appropriate switch we want and then kind of go about it that way. So yeah, we never did this. So this is interesting. You said that, but that's exactly what happened. So yeah.
That's funny. Uh, when you were there, you mentioned that you guys used a lot of different screening packages. Offensively, did you find that Coach Nickel had like a switch package, a drop package, a hedge package to be able, like specific sets to be able to attack the specific coverages? And would he convey that to the players if yes?
Um, I don't like, and you're referring to like a hedge package in terms of, okay, if in someone hedges and then they have to emergency switch. Is that what you're saying? Or are you
So
saying?
what I'm saying is, okay, we're playing this team. Let's talk about first play that we brought up.
Gotcha.
We see the coverage, and now we're like, okay, they're definitely going to be switching.
Got it. Okay.
So now let's use set A, set B, and set C. That's part of our switch package, and
Mhm.
everybody just knows that's what we're going to go into and repeatedly attack type deal.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a couple sets that we ran to try to exploit those things. With this team in particular, we just knew that they were going to switch everything. But he definitely had those things in place. Like we would run a play called Cheek to try to get a slot ball screen for teams that you know didn't switch, like their post was slow and they couldn't get out there to switch fast enough or something like that. So he definitely had those things, and to be honest with you, I'm drawing a blank on how we kind of conveyed it to the team. But that he did do a lot of that stuff, and I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on what it
No,
was
that's
that
fine.
he addressed.
And
So
then my other question about this particular clip is, I find a lot of the time I call it the triangle concept, not from the triangle triple post offense, but usually after you get a switch and a deep seal, you have players form a triangle. That triangle is usually towards the wing, the slots, and the block. Here you guys seem to form it this way.
mhm.
And I'm wondering your thoughts. Is it okay? Are you all right with the slot entry into the post? Do you have confidence in your low man to be able to hold that seal, and you're okay with the angle and all that fun stuff?
So my thing is if you can get it in there and they can score, let's rock and roll.
I love it.
But it, to be honest with you, this is a pet peeve of mine, especially right now. We have now Carceroni is 6'1". Okay, the girl that threw it in here, so she has a little bit of an advantage because she can sort of see over the defense.
Right.
I don't like a guard making that pass all the time. I would rather them pass it from the slot to the wing, and then our post kind of move down and get a better, position there and lay it
Right.
in.
Right.
We would say that to, and really we would kind of put it on our post in a sense. Be like, send it down, send it down, send it down. That way we can catch it from a better angle and try to lay it in that way.
Right.
We stress that a lot, but again, Carson being 6'1", we're okay with this. So, yeah.
I find that post entries are a thing of the past. There's just so many players that don't know how to throw the ball into the post anymore, just
Mhm.
because it's not the way the game's played any longer. So
It's crazy. We spent a lot of time on it. We were terrible at it. So that was going into this game. That should have been a key to win, passing into the post.
there
Um,
you go.
but yeah,
Well,
so
it's funny to me because like I don't know what your theory is on rim running, but like a lot of coaches are taking out rim running, and there's still some element. I mean, I played in the 90s. I'm an older guy, right? And what when I played, there's still something to be said for I'm bigger than you. Just give me the ball, like, and let me go score. That's it. We don't need to run a play. Let's just throw it in here, and that's dying for sure.
absolutely.
We have a 2-3 in the second quarter. Sort of talk to me about first off your rotations, which I think on this example were probably in need of a little bit of correction, but also like why now at this point in the game did you guys decide to go to it? And you didn't really stay in it very long. So what happened there for the adjustment?
Sure. Actually, so it's funny. It's actually an amoeba defense.
Is it? There you go. I was gonna ask if it was not a 2-3, if it was kind of a matchup. So there we go.
It was. We worked on this a lot, and what we were essentially trying to do. Were we pressing on this middle leg? I can't remember.
I think there's the next clip. You begin sort of with like a full court pressure, but it's like
Sure.
my question is this more for shadow and for time to see if you can turn them over? Because it's not really like a 2-2-1 type deal or a 1-2-2. It's sort of more like a shadow defense, full court.
Sure. I think at this time we were trying to be a little conservative with our legs, I'm pretty sure. But the thing with this defense is that whoever is guarding the ball is harassing the hell out of it,
Right.
So we were trying to get a quick turnover here. Bailey has no idea who's going behind her there on that. Yeah, that's funny. I'm gonna have to give her crap about that. But no, we're trying to play in the passing lanes. We're trying to make it hard for them to just get a good shot. Now, I think this is probably a bad thing that we did here because our whole game plan was to run them off the 3-point line. And with this defense, you get so sucked in, right? Because your goal is to have one person on the ball, and then that X2 man, I don't know what Brandy's doing, but she's supposed to be, I'm sorry, Hagen is there. So somebody's on the nail, somebody's on the ball, right? And then they kind of work in a tandem. If the ball goes to the other slot, the person on the nail goes and gets the ball, the other person sinks back into the nail, right?
Right.
So there we got too sucked in. I don't know what Brandy's doing here. I think she wants to try to double the post there,
Yeah.
but just loses her freaking mind and leaves one of a really good shooter out there for a wide open three. Typically that's not supposed to happen, but our girls always got so sucked in when we did this. And like you said, we didn't stay in it very long, so we got out of it.
In
So.
an ideal world, she would remain at this pass into the post. She would remain at the nail, sort of breaking that line, like touching the line with her top hand, you could say, or denying, so to speak.
That's right. Yep, that's right.
And it's interesting that you guys are running amoeba. I mean, so LB is in the call, and LB can actually really educate us all on the real origins of the amoeba defense, etc. But like, could you briefly, just for the listeners, give an idea? You did sort of talk about the tangent and 3 idea as well, like how one goes to the nail, one pops up and harasses. But give us sort of like a superficial topical, what is the amoeba? What, like, how is it differing from the 2-3, so to speak?
You asking me or are you asking him?
No, I'm asking you. Sorry, just sort of
Okay.
like what
You said
was
it, so I was like, okay, I got you.
no.
No, it's like you were saying earlier. I think it's just more of a matchup type deal. You're you're guarding an area, but you're also like harassing the crap out of the person that you're guarding.
Right.
Whereas I think as a traditional 2-3 is more kind of like, I just need to take up space with my hands,
Right.
and try to just be kind of in my area type deal. Um, I think with now what you can kind of get into it where you call it a amoeba rotation where your five has to come out and guard the corner because the corner loses their mind, whatever. Like we can get into all of those things, but I think typically it's more man to man based than it is zone based. It's not, you're not really taking a breath. You're still like up and at it, I guess. So
Love it. Thank you.
yep.
So next one is a full court pressured type deal. So you're picking up the ball the length of the floor. Uh, you know, is it for time as and hoping that they make a mistake as opposed to overall pressure? And then what do you typically fall back into? It looks like man here. What do you
Mhm.
typically fall back into when you're pressing?
We worked on this a lot. We tried to press back into amoeba. We found that our girls just did better when we fell back into a man. In this scenario in particular, I think we were just trying to get a quick, see if we can get something, like a quick force a turnover, get a bucket. Not really a whole lot of pressure, I guess, in this situation, but it would have been great to kind of go into halftime off of a couple buckets from a press, I guess. So not really any particular reason why we did this other than that. So
And it was brief as well. It wasn't one that you guys stayed in, but I like it. I'm all for changing defenses and keeping teams on their toes for sure.
sure.
Last play of the half starts off as like a 4 low. I think it ends up lasting into like a horn set. Uh, Talk to me about end of quarter, end of game type deal. Do you guys work on these situations, or is it just kind of one of these and everybody get out of the way, give the ball to your best player, and something good come out of it?
Sure. Well, I think any traditional, like, when the shot clock's going down, you're going to expect a ball screen, right? Um, Coach Nickel was really good about starting everybody low in these type of scenarios and then just sprinting your butt off to get up there.
Yeah.
Um, and we worked on those, like our post players worked on sprinting up there a lot. Now Bailey Cummins, this is the kid that we want the ball, we want the ball in her hands in these type of scenarios because she is so good coming off of screens. We worked on more so just sprinting into ball screens more than anything, and let Bailey go to work because she's such a good player. So
Like it.
yeah.
I actually heard a very interesting concept from Coach Cody Toppert. I think it was last week we filmed, but instead of ball in your best player's hands at the end of the shot clock, they started moving into what they called maydays, which were basically ghost screens.
Okay.
Which kind of opens up the floor a little bit and gets the ball moving in those last few seconds because people get confused in terms of coverages that they want to play against a ghost, which I thought was really interesting.
Interesting. That's very interesting.
Yeah, so LB gave us the background there. Usually it's Coach Tarkanian from UNLV, but the late John Chaney from Temple said Tarkanian owes him money because he stole it from him after he taught it to him. This is a little fun fact about Amoeba defense there. I love it, LB. Thank you. Here is one that I was wondering, does it make your scout? How do you think you played it? It's in the third quarter with just under 4 minutes left. You guys are up 9. It's a baseline out of bounds. It's a box set, diagonal screen the screener type action that actually turns into a stagger towards the corner and an open 3. They don't hit it. You guys bust out in transition. But give me an idea, how did you play it? How would you like to play it? What do you see when you look at it now?
Well, we were supposed to switch 1 through 4 in our 5-man stays, but Hagan and Marnay kind of lose their minds there. I don't know what happens in that. Uh, yeah, that right there. I don't know what they're doing. Hagan goes to take it, as you can see, but then Marnay doesn't switch. So that was our plan: switch 1 through 4, and keep our 5. As you can see, Natalie's doing a good job. She's gapping, waiting for that person to come through on our X5 man. I'm sorry, but we if we'd have just switched this, I think it would have been we would have had a better possession here. But they did not do that. Sorry, it drives me crazy watching this stuff. But yeah,
I
yeah.
believe me, I've developed an eye twitch or two in life for sure. That's not what we talked about. What? This is a pretty interesting box set. I like this set a lot actually
Yep.
because of this slip on the front end of the stagger right here when
Mhm.
44 goes, and the way that so like
Mhm.
you talk about switching, and I
Yeah,
would assume that the switch would probably come from this girl, but if she does switch, you're behind 44. So
sure.
it makes it kind of like it's a tricky one. I like the set a lot.
Yeah. We c and we actually this is funny, we talked about this, what we could have done, and we called it spear. But AP, the girl that was guarding the girl in the corner, um, could have taken so yeah, AP, the girl right here, outside in the, guarding the corner girl. Um, she could have
In
just
this girl,
taken no, other girl, sorry. On, guarding the corner girl in the right corner there. Yep, her. So she could have just taken that cut and we could have speared it and had Hagen go over and take her girl that's in the corner. So that would be another adjustment I guess we could have made.
yeah, I like this set a lot. Don't be surprised if you see Fleming College run that one.
Yeah, it's good.
Um, Sorry. Yeah, it's a good set for sure. Drop coverage plus over teaching points. You guys did play some drop and over throughout the game. You mixed it up with some other coverages. I think this girl just kind of wins the foot race downhill here. So it's from the left slot to the right side and just attacks a drop, gets to her outside hip. This is a little bit more of roll replace action that you were talking about. They really replace pretty high, so it pulls the help out of there. Talk to me about teaching points for your big and not getting beat to the outside and what you guys could do better on this.
I think it starts with Bailey not she's right now she's worried about me looking at me for the play call because they're doing thumbs up or thumbs down and the girl just goes right by her.
Right.
In this situation, Leah did her job, our X5, as far as like staying low on that. Bailey was supposed to just drop under it, not go over it. Because Zoe Bard typically doesn't shoot off of screens. So
Right.
we were sending Bailey under it. And really just teaching points for our bigs. And she just a little slower than Zoe. And Zoe had a little hesitation move there that kind of caught her off guard. But things that Leah could have probably done better here. Probably just did, and she's in a good stance. I can't really critique her. I think she did a good job. I think it really was on Bailey at this point. And Brandy, the girl that was guarding the girl in the corner there, she really couldn't help off of her because that's a really good shooter. I think she probably helped too much, to be honest with you, and maybe kind of got in the way there for Zoe to score. But Leah, all she has to do at that point is just keep her hands high and make her finish over the top and just pray that she doesn't make it. But
Pat her on the back and say, good job that you won the foot race basically at this point.
yeah, I don't think Leah did a bad job here. I really don't. I think it was Bailey's fault. So
So
yeah.
then my follow-up question would be this girl that you said did a good job.
Mhm.
Is she the person who calls the veer switch, which would send her back here? Or is she the person who calls the veer switch? Which one of the two is going to say, all right, this is a switch, or I'm back type deal? And what do you teach her responsibility wise when this girl is rolling hard? Is she preventing the roll or is she stopping the ball?
So the guard is supposed to call out the switch because they kind of recognize their beat first.
Right.
So, and then our X5 will then say switch, because she'll see it next, right? So it's got to be a mutual thing for sure. Obviously, if someone's getting beat, you just got to recognize that.
Right.
Now, what we would teach at this point, this one's tough, but since Bailey's beat so bad, what I would just have her do in this scenario is roll on top and just try to just take away Emily as best as she can. So it actually would be a real live switch scenario versus Leah switching for a second and Bailey sliding in front.
Right.
We teach roll on top just so that we can, because some of our guards, we don't want to get them buried under with them sliding underneath. I know there's different philosophies on that. I've always been a roll on top person, just to try to take away, especially if you have a smaller guard rolling or switching. For Leah, she just gotta, like I said, just play good defense. I think she does a good job here. So, yeah, it's a mutual switch call, but Bailey's going to recognize it first.
Like it.
Yep.
This is one of their ATOs, 3 minutes, 22 seconds left. I was wondering, and I'll play it just to see if it refreshes your memory at all as to where you are in the game. I'm wondering what you guys sort of said in the huddle in terms of defending this, and if you're giving them both defense and offense. But the situation is the game's tied. It's their ball, sideline out of bounds. It's an ATO. There's 23 on the shot clock.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, this is just kind of multiple side nonsense that they end up running. They don't get anything off of the first action. They don't get anything off of the second action. Force pass, great steal. You guys go back the other way. But what were your plans in terms of stopping them? Did you anticipate who was going to have the ball or what actions they were going to be into?
Sure. At this point in the game, Zoe Barth, not the girl with the ball, but the girl in the corner, she was doing a very good job of getting downhill. So we knew that the ball would probably find her. So it was interesting that they put Courtney Hurst at the point here, because it was somehow the ball was going to get back to Zoe, who ended up getting it. Now I think we did a good job. I remember Coach telling Bailey, like, the ball's coming to you, So I think our girls did a really good job being aware of that. And Carson Roney makes a really good read at the end of the play there and gets a steal. So we knew the ball was going to go to Zoe, to answer your question.
Love it.
Yeah.
And did you give them anything offensively as well as on the defensive side?
In this quarter, is that what you're saying?
No, so this is ATO, if I remember correctly, when I was watching this. So when you guys came together in the huddle, you mentioned you have a pretty good idea where the ball is going, what the idea is going to be. Are you telling them anything for the offensive sets after, or are you only giving them the defensive side?
We do, yeah. Coach did a really good job of that. Obviously, if we got any type of turnover, let's go, right? And then it all went back to our game plan. We're going to run a set to get it into the post. I don't know what he called at the time. I can't remember, but everything was designed to get it inside at that point going forward. So, yeah.
And then we go end of game here, basically. So we got 4 clips from the end of game here. You guys are up 1 in the first, 45 seconds left. It's your sideline out of bounds. Talk us through what you guys were trying to get, what you were trying to establish. There's a cut over the top, turns into a pass to the other slot. I thought this was ball screen action, but let me watch it. Sorry. It's a post entry, and she just ends up running into the girl in the help. So I'm assuming you're trying to establish post on this. I don't know why in my mind I thought this was a ball screen play.
It should have been. It should have been.
It should have been.
Mm-hmm.
So, here's your girl coming up on the help side, and we get a pretty good seal, and then we get rooted out a bit, and she attacks middle, runs into the help. So talk me through it. What happened? What went wrong? What would you do differently?
So the thing that I think we didn't recognize early was that when this ball goes from, I'm sorry, it looks like that Bailey was supposed to come off a ball screen initially and doesn't. So Bailey just needs to take her girl down a little bit further, kind of do a counter move and get off of it.
Right.
Because what I think was supposed to happen here, when she came off that screen, Carson was just supposed to duck in, and we try to get that throw in right there. But anyways, Bailey doesn't go off of the screen. Brandy comes up in the other slot. Now what Kaylin Burdick does, the girl that's guarding Carson down there posting up, she's sort of fronting her right here, which I wouldn't make that pass, that lob pass in this late in the game. I kind of would be a little bit more conservative. And what happens here, Kaylin just pushes Carson up the line. We tell our guards, do not pass it to them when they're trying to post up on the elbow. Like, we don't work on that, right? Because here's what happens. When you throw this ball in there at that high, Carson doesn't really put the ball on the floor. She's not a guard, right? So here she goes driving, has no idea what's happening, and turns the ball over. So I think we made a couple mistakes there. We didn't go off the ball screen initially. We gave it to our post way too high. So those are just kind of things that we're talking through after the game in this scenario. To make sure that we do better for next time. Carson just got to be a little bit smarter. She also has Bailey Cummins, one of the best shooters in the country, wide open over here in the corner. If she can just kick it out there for a three. Again, I think it just starts with the bad post up here. That's essentially on outside of the lane and up towards the elbow. So,
Like you said, doesn't really put it on the deck. Not really her skill set. Ends up with the travel.
yep.
So it becomes their ATO. So, talk us through it. It's under 30. You guys are up one. What are you expecting at this point, and what did you want to do? And I'll run it through so everybody can see what happens.
Mhm.
So enter at the top. We get into a mid ball screen here. We get a handoff towards the side, and it turns into another top ball screen. And they instead decide not to use it, throw the pass to the wing, which gets knifed, and we're trying to go the other direction. Ends up being their ball again, but I think it's a great deflection.
Yes. Again, and we knew that a couple of things, they were going to run a middle ball screen, roll and rise, roll and replace. And then we knew that they wanted the ball in Zoe's hands, which they got. Now, look, Courtney doesn't come off the ball screen, tries to find Zoe again, right? So Bailey just does a really good job of understanding who she's guarding and then just jumps that gap right there. But we knew after that it was going to probably a roll and rise or a Euro ball screen continuity. Anyway, they were going to try to get Zoe Barth in a ball screen going downhill. So we did a really good job. What was that pick and roll coverage right there? What did we do? I can't remember.
Let's get it into it here. I think your first one was a jam and under.
Yep, that was right. Or
And
that's
then it
actually it
turned
was a
into a
switch.
switch.
It was a switch. Yep, that's right.
And then your next one was about to be a switch again, it looked like
Mhm.
she was waiting for.
So
And then next clip, they get another shot at it. Is there any different instruction going in here now that they have, I mean, the shot clock should really be off at this point if it's at 30, but 15 seconds left in the game, you're still up one. Is there any different instruction, or do you figure they're just going to try to go to the same girl, do the same idea?
same thing. And I think one of our things we were saying in the huddle actually was, don't foul, switch everything, typical things that you say.
Right.
But we were making sure that we emphasize it. But again, as you can see, they didn't deviate. They're still going for that middle ball screen, roll and rise, trying to get somebody downhill. So
And she wins the foot race this time, gets a really good vertical block. You guys get the ball, you go the other way. They foul you, so you end up three. There's 3 seconds left in the game. Any instruction that's special here for their sideline out of bounds? Do you even consider fouling up three? I know, I think Jimmy joined the call. I know Jimmy would punch me in the face for saying that, but like, do you even consider it? Or is it just good defense, no foul type deal? What are you saying?
No, it's same things we've been talking about. We're not going to foul. We're going to do it's kind of the same things we've been doing there for the last minute or so. This is so interesting though. I want you to look at the clock and I want you to look at the time it touches that player's hands. They don't start the clock. So
Oh, that is interesting.
yeah. So
That's a pretty long time, actually.
it's a long time. It's a very long time. And I didn't realize it until I went back and watched it. I'm like, dang it, they didn't start the clock. And anyways, we ended up basketball gods were good to us.
Well,
So
the first time I watched this, I thought this shot went in. I had to like rewind and put that in. I was like, wow, did she hit that?
gotta love
Oh
that.
no, it's an air ball.
Man, you can't see anything. So
Love it. That's all I got in terms of clips. Really, really appreciate your time. This has been awesome. And if anybody has any questions for Abby before I wind it down, please feel free to jump in. If not, obviously, everybody, thank you so much. Coaches that jump on the call, really appreciate you. Abby, I really have loved this. It's been fantastic. Thank you. Thanks for joining in and lending your perspective. And, for the Run It Back family, tune in next week. I believe I have Tim Pete next week, so it should be another good one. Looking forward to it. Abby, if you want to hang around after the recording stops, sometimes coaches have questions they don't want to ask on the camera. But thank you so much for your time. Don't feel obliged to have to stay. This was awesome.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. It was awesome.
You're welcome.